It will, without a doubt, end in an economic holocaust that completely wipes out the savings and income of the middle class.
The stimulus provided by inflation is due to the errors which it produces. That's where your stimulus comes from. Inflation is making possible the propping up of things that shouldn't be propped up and the starting of things that shouldn't be started. So these things are going to have to be liquidated anyway, and the correction will be all the worse.
The Federal Reserve created the real estate bubble when it tried to keep the dot-com bubble artificially inflated by lowering interest rates in 2003 down to 1%. The recession that we needed to have in 2003 so that the free market could rebalance the economy simply never occurred. In a last-ditch effort to correct our economic imbalances caused by the Federal Reserve, the free market made a desperate attempt to enter the U.S. into a depression in late 2008. The Federal Reserve lowered interest rates to 0% and the depression never occurred. They simply kicked the can down the road. Heroin addicts need to go through withdrawal in order to get healthy. They can't simply shoot larger doses of heroin and stay high forever. Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke is just like a heroin addict, only his drug is quantitative easing.
Why do these bubbles keep happening? How come they never learn their lesson? Try talking to an addict, a heroin addict, somebody hooked on nicotine, an alcoholic. Sit down with the addict and say, listen, stop shooting up. They're going to listen to you? They have no bounds. They have no loyalties. They have no boundaries. They're addicts. What we're talking about here, so I make this very clear, that these titans of industry that President Obama calls them, who make nothing other than profits. They make no steel. They don't build railroads. They don't build automobiles. They build nothing other than profits. They're junkies. They're addicts. They're money junkies. That's all they are. They can't get enough. They can't get enough. Bowing down before Warren Buffett. For what? Because he makes a lot of money? Billionaire bonuses. For what? Because they knew how to play the rigged game. A bunch of guys cutting up $45 billion in bonuses. Bigger than the GDPs of many nations. They're junkies. So rather than letting the junkie go cold turkey, no, here's more money, junkie. Here, go bet it again. Go, hey, look at those bank profits. Look how they've soared since we gave them more money heroin. That's all it is. They're junkies. You have the money junkies on one hand, and you have the power junkies on the other. The power junkies are called politicians.
If Bernanke doesn't raise interest rates immediately and raise them dramatically, we could see Dow 15,000, and then Dow 20,000, and Dow 50,000. But Dow 50,000 won't mean anything if gold is $50,000 per ounce, silver is $5,000 per ounce, and a loaf of bread costs $120. The last thing Americans need to be worried about today is the stock market crashing nominally. If stocks were to see a nominal decline one last time, we will likely see Bernanke shoot up his largest ever dose of quantitative easing, which could turn the current melt-up into hyperinflation.
Eventually, we'll have much higher inflation rates because if deflation comes first, they're going to have even more stimulus packages and even more printing. And as you know, many leading economists, they call for additional stimulus, which I think is ludicrous, is crazy to even suggest additional stimulus. But that is what the Keynesian believe is the right thing to do, and that will bankrupt Western governments, not just in the US, but everywhere.
Hyperinflation can only be prevented if we see the Federal Reserve raise interest rates to a level that is higher than the rate of inflation. The official U.S. inflation rate based on year-over-year changes in the CPI is currently 2.31%. However, over the years, the government has made revisions to the way that CPI is calculated in an effort to understate inflation, due to the fact that Social Security and other programs adjust to the CPI, and they want to keep payment increases for these programs as low as possible. Through the addition of geometric weighting, the CPI today gives a lower weighting to goods that are rising in price and a higher weighting to goods that are falling in price. They justify this by saying that if the price of steak rises, Americans are more likely to eat something that is falling in price, like hamburgers. The government also uses hedonics to understate inflation. Hedonics account for the increased pleasure of using goods. If an oven increased 25% in price, but is now 25% more energy efficient, or if a car increased 10% in price, but is now 10% safer, the CPI won't account for any price increases. We conservatively believe the real rate of inflation to be 3 to 4% higher than what is indicated by the CPI. Therefore, if we want to prevent hyperinflation, we need the Federal Reserve to raise the federal funds rate immediately from 0% up to at least 5.31% to 6.31%.
Even if the Fed fund rate goes to 5%, and you have at that particular time inflation at 8 to 10%, in real terms interest rates will still be negative. So as far as I'm concerned, as far as the eye can see, short-term rates will stay negative in real terms, which is essentially supportive of equities and of course extremely supportive of precious metals.
Historically, one of the best performing periods for precious metals has been when the Federal Reserve begins to raise artificially low interest rates. While investors initially expect rising interest rates to be bad for precious metals, they forget that even as the Fed begins to raise artificially low rates, interest rates will remain very inflationary until they reach a level that is higher than the real rate of inflation. During the 1970s, gold's bull run from $35 per ounce to a high of $850 per ounce for a gain of 2,329% came during a time of rising interest rates. If we go by gold's low of $250.95 per ounce in 2001, if gold makes the same percentage gain during its current secular bull market, gold could easily reach $6,200 per ounce before its bull run is over. The best way to gauge inflation is to simply look at the price of gold. Gold is the most stable asset the world has ever seen. In 1970, you could have bought a nice men's suit for 1 ounce of gold or $35. Today, you can still buy a nice men's suit for 1 ounce of gold, but $35 won't even buy you a nice t-shirt. Although the Federal Reserve doesn't admit it, they secretly watch the price of gold like a hawk. If the price of gold melts up too quickly, it's a sign that the dollar bubble is coming to an end.